Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the extra mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now your hosts, Jackson Mummy and Megan Saya from Celebration Bar Review.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 358 of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is Jackson, glad to be with you. We held off on this week's episode of our podcast because we wanted to get the California bar results, which came out late on Friday night as part of this episode. So I'm recording on Saturday morning and Megan's over on the West Coast and she's sleeping. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of the initial cut on this. And then we're going to share with you an interview we did just a few days ago with a successful uniform bar exam taker, a foreign trained attorney from Russia, who has a great story of how she overcame so many barriers to be able to take and pass the UBE. And I think you're going to love hearing Mila's story. The big story, obviously, this morning as we talk about what's going on in the bar exam world is that California has released their February 2021 results. And I suppose it depends on how you want to look at it. The examiners are looking at it from the glass half full standpoint. The pass rate for the exam was 37.2%. And that represents an increase of 10 points from the February 2020 exam, which had a pass rate of 26%. It went from really awful to just awful. I think that's the way that I would tell you. So that's the first big piece of news. Yeah, it's better than February 2020, which was a complete train wreck, but it was still pretty much a train wreck. Now, the other part of this that's really extraordinary to me is that the total number of applicants who have passed in this February 2021 exam was 1,151. That's right, you heard that. In a state with millions of residents, we added a whopping 1,150 new attorneys out of this exam. That to me is just the insanity of the California bar exam. There is no way to be providing enough legal services to the people that need it when you're only admitting 1,100 applicants. Now, there were far fewer people taking the exam in February of 2021. We expected this would be the case because of the late date of getting results out of the October 2020 test. You remember that all of the July bar exams in 2020 were pushed back. California was among the very last ones to give their exams and to get results back. So instead of the normal cohort of about 5,000 bar takers in a February exam, we only had in this particular bar exam a very small number of people that took the test. It was literally 3,100 or so, so a couple thousand less. Now, the other interesting thing about the cohort is the breakout between first-time takers and repeat takers. Now, in a February bar exam, and frankly, in any bar exam in California, there are more repeat bar takers than first-time takers. So what happened here is that you again had a majority of bar takers in February 2021 who were repeaters. The percentage was about 60%. Now, in a normal February exam, that percentage is about 70%. And the fact that there were fewer repeat bar takers probably accounts for the reason that the overall pass rate went up from February 2020. I know that's a little geeky, but basically what I'm telling you is that the fact that the numbers went up has much more to do with who was taking the exam than it does anything or any other single factor. So again, let's summarize the statistics here. There were about 3,100 people that took the exam. Of those, first-time applicants were 1,227, so about 40% of the total. And the pass rate for those first-timers was 53%, so not outstanding, a little bit over half. And in most jurisdictions, that's about where we are today. It's not a very high number. Among the repeat applicants, there were 1,871, so 60% of our total. And the pass rate for repeaters was only 27%. And that's a significant number, certainly for our audience, is that repeat pass rate of 27% is a really daunting number. And I'm going to talk in just a moment a little bit about how scoring works in California, because one of the things that consistently comes up is that people don't understand the scoring process here. And so they misread these scores. And so I thought it might be helpful to talk about that as well. But I wanted to just give you that sense of the numbers. If you're looking at type of legal education and how it compares, no surprises. If you went to an ABA accredited law school in California, you're a first-time taker, you passed at about 65%. That's the prime group for the bar exam. If you're a repeat bar taker, that pass rate was 39% for California ABA. The pass rates are lower if you went to an out-of-state ABA school by about 7 or 8% across the board. If you went to a California accredited, not ABA accredited school, and you're a first-time bar taker, your pass rate was 44%. Not bad. If you're a repeat bar taker, it was 17%. So pretty big difference there. I think the other thing to think about is that we have foreign attorneys on this exam. And for foreign attorneys, the pass rate was about 47% for first timers, but only 23% for repeat bar takers. So that lines up with what we see in other large foreign trained attorney jurisdictions like New York and Texas. So not great numbers, but that's where we are. And then the final number I want to share with you is that there is the one-day attorney exam. There were 432 attorneys that participated in that, and 57% of them passed. So if you're a licensed attorney somewhere else, you got a better shot at this exam than someone that has never taken the exam before. So interesting set of numbers there. The other piece of this, of course, is that the cut score, went down to 1390 from 1440. The examiners did an analysis and said that if the cut score had remained at 1440, only 734 bar takers would have passed. That would have been a 23% pass rate. So that cut score made a big difference. But again, I think the lead story should be only 1,100 people were admitted to practice in California. That is a staggeringly small number for such a large state. Concerns me a great deal. And I said I want to talk a little bit about, as you're analyzing, if you were one of the people that got your scores back and you're not successful, you're probably trying to figure out, what do these numbers mean and how do I think through them? The first thing I would tell you is to look at your multi-state scaled MBE score. Now, remembering that California multiplies everything by 10, you have to divide by 10 to get some sort of a comparative basis. So essentially what you want to do is look at that scaled MBE score, and what you're looking for is a 139 or a 1390. If you're not seeing a number that's at least that high, then you failed the multi-state, and that's going to be really important when it comes to how your written work is going to be graded. There is a second read or a cutoff score that seems to be around 136. So if you're in the 136 or 1360 or higher, it means that you're going to get a pretty close read on your written work. But if you're below that 136, you're not going to get a very good reading. And here's why. The examiners have enough data points over the years to know what it takes on the written side to offset a lower multi-state score. And the multi-state score is available to them within just a few weeks after the test is taken. So they're able to put every applicant's set of exams together based on their scaled MBE. Now, if you've got a 136 scaled MBE or higher, you've got a pretty good chance of passing the bar exam. And so the examiners want to make sure that your work gets read very carefully and you get put in one pile. But if you're below that 136, and some people are way below it, they're in the 130s or the 120s or lower, the examiners know that there's little to no likelihood that you'll pass the overall exam. But they still have to read and score your essays under California state law. So what do? In this situation is to take that written work and they put it in a different pile. And now they're looking for the black swan event, the extraordinary piece of writing, something that draws out and requires them to read more carefully. You're going to get a much shorter, more cursory level of reading and grading of your written work if that multi-state score is below 136. What does that mean in practice? If you're looking at your scores and you see a lot of 50s and 55s, maybe an occasional 60, that means that you're probably getting a cursory reading. Now, it might be that your written work really is a 50 or 55, but it's also possible that it's much better than that, but because your multi-state score was low, the examiners just weren't reading it all that carefully. I'll also note to you that essay number 6 is actually the performance test, and it appears in most exams, and we haven't seen, obviously, the scoring sheets from enough people yet to know this for sure, from February of 2021. But typically that performance test score is a bit higher. The grader seems to be giving a higher default score on this than they are on some other pieces, and certainly in the essays. So I'd be looking for a default score of about 60 there. If you're getting a 60, that means you probably didn't do much of a reading, or less if you're getting less than 60. Anything better than that, maybe you got a little better reading. And that's good news because it certainly counts for a bit more than the average essay. But if you see a lot of 50s and 55s in your essays, my guess is that your scale multi-state score is well below that 136. So that's the thing you want to be watching for. Now, does that mean you should overstudy the multi-state to prepare for the exam? No, it's just an informational piece about how the exam is actually being scored. So again, if you took the California bar, you were not successful. We're really sorry to hear that. There is enough time to study for this exam. We're still enough days away that you can be prepared. We have students that do this every year successfully with us, and we would invite you to join us and contact us for more information. It's in the show notes to do that. Again, not great results out of California, not a big surprise. The other interesting thing I think we'll see is the number of applicants going into July is going to be huge. There were some statistics we got earlier that 93% rise in applications so far this year in California for that July exam. That's a pretty staggering number. I think we could be looking at north of 10 to 12,000 applicants in July. So we'll see what that means. All right, as we get more information and we get more detail, we will share that with you in upcoming episodes of the podcast. But we wanted to give you the first cut today as we're getting that information. Now, following that not very encouraging news, I thought it would be good to share with you an interview that really is encouraging. A student that came to us, she had taken and failed the UBE a number of times. She came here from Russia and had to learn English and had to start her studies all over again and got her LLM. But she just wasn't being successful on the exam. And then she employed some of the tools that we use, like PhotoReading and mind mapping, our writing style, our coaching assistance. And Mila was able to push through and pass the UBE as a foreign trained attorney. And we're really proud of her, and it's a great story. And I wanted to share that with you today. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into our interview with Mila as she talks about what she needed to do to pass the uniform bar exam. Everybody, welcome back to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Takers. And today I've got one of my very favorite students to share a great story. Mila is a successful UBE student from February 2021. Hi, how are you?
Hello, Jackson. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. You and I had a lot of phone calls while you were studying. This is easily the nicest of the calls we've had, don't you think?
Yes, I agree.
You have a great story just in your desire to push through and work and to pass the exam. This was not your first time taking the test, was it?
Yes, it was number 5 for me.
Yeah. And so obviously you've got an accent. I think our audience would like to know a little bit about your background and how you came to be taking the bar exam in February of 2021.
Yeah, so my GED is from Russia. So I came from Russia in 2006. And I did not plan to go to law school. I did not plan to become an attorney. But eventually I went to get my paralegal certificate from the college. And I started working in law firms since 2009. And doing my paralegal work, my attorney encouraged me, maybe you go to law school, maybe try to be my partner. This is how it all started. So I entered the Master of Laws University, and I was working full-time, and I studied for a year and a half, and I finished my master degree. And since July 2018, I was taking the bar exams, every single bar exam I took. But I was working full time. I never stopped working. This was a problem for me to pass the bar because I didn't have enough time to study, to focus only on my studies. I had to work. I had to commute every day, and only weekends or maybe holidays were my study time. So I didn't have enough time to study. But with your program, I kind of learned more about law and kind of slowed down with my studies and went deeper than before.
You are very precise in working through all of this. And I don't want to minimize how challenging it is to take the bar normally. But when English is not your first language and you're working, there's a lot of things going on there. And it must have been discouraging to you at points along the way.
Yes, but for me, rule number 1 was never find any excuses. So if my English is my second language, I was kind of put it aside. I said, okay, this is what I'm doing. I never find any excuse. Being a foreign attorney, I'm equal to everybody, and I'll do my best every time. So this was my motto.
Yeah, it was a good motto to have. You didn't make excuses. And we pushed through a lot of things. We're going to talk about some of that. You decided that the uniform bar exam made sense. And as a foreign trained attorney, Washington State would allow you to take the test with your LLM. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
And do you live in Washington State? Yeah, so that was nice to have that extra piece. And we're going to talk in a minute about where you actually went to take the exam in February or to study for it beforehand. But how did you balance work and study? Because you worked really hard on the bar. You put in a lot of effort. How did that work for you?
Actually, so all 4 times I took bar before, I was trying to rush and go through the all programs. 3 times I took the big box bar review. And it was challenging because they want you to memorize the rules, the law, and I did not have time to memorize. For me, it was a big problem. And I did not do well because I did not memorize. I did not have enough time to go deep into the law. But this time around, I just slowed down and I started to understand the law, not just go quickly, but go deeper and understand how the law applies, what the facts can trigger some challenges or some other reasons law applied differently. And this would make a big difference because I slowed down and I trying to be more precise. And I took time to all my lunches, I was doing the MBE questions. So I make a rule every day. I went to the lunch during lunch break and I studied the MBE questions. I go through the questions, and weekends were my essays, lectures, mind mapping, and everything else.
Yeah. You had the MBE for lunch is what you're telling us. Now, you used a lot of the tools that we make available. One of them was photo reading. Can you talk a little bit about photo reading?
Yes, I was a little bit hesitant in the beginning, but after you explained how it works, I did it and I don't have any regrets. So it saved lots of time going through the lectures, through the materials, and I could have extra time doing my mind mapping, practicing. I think it's helped me a lot in the end.
Yeah, and you mentioned mind maps. Can you explain what a mind map is to our audience? They might not know.
Yes, mind mapping, it's basically drawings of your knowledge, understanding of the law. So you start from the basics and then you go to the elements and the different elements of the law so you can understand how law growing based on the different facts and different circumstances.
Yeah, and did that help you understand the relationships and keep the ideas better?
Yes, yeah. And actually, with this bar review program, is your program, I took it twice. So first time I took the bar in September 2020. And unfortunately for that time around, I did not have much time for the mind mapping. I did my lectures practicing, but I did not finish all mind maps. I thinking maybe it's not that important because I was hoping I would just will pass without them. And I did not pass in first time. So you told me you have to be more specific. You have to go deeper into the law and understand the law. So this time around, I very focused on my mind maps. I finished all mind maps and I was very, very specific about how I listened to your lectures, how I reflected them into my mind maps. And in the end, it was what make me pass the bar exam, I believe. Good picture of the law.
Yeah, I think it does. It's a very powerful tool. And I know that you really began to incorporate it. One of the other tools that we offered that you used was the coaching calls. You and I had a number of coaching calls, one-on-one Zoom calls. And I know that some of those were very difficult. I pushed you hard, but one of the calls in particular near the end was pretty important, wasn't it?
Yes. So at least 2-3 days before the bar exam, I had very big problem with my MPTs because we went online and it was supposed to be online bar exam. And my skill to quickly go through the files and understand, remember the facts was very challenging to me. So when I was thinking, if I don't understand the MPT online, I will never pass the bar exam. So we had a call 2 days before the bar. And I was very concerned. And you told me just do what I tell you to do. Don't question it. Don't doubt it. Just go ahead and do it. And this was biggest breaking moment for me, I think. Next day after the call, I wasn't sure I can even do it. But next day, I sit down and I remembered all what you told me. And I did the MPT the first time. I did it on time. I did it very, very well. So it gave me hope. So this was the kind of the thing. I was, okay, if I can do this MPT now, I can pass the bar exam.
Yeah. And the exam in Washington State was online. I want to talk a little bit about that too, because I know that was a big deal after coming out of the fall of 2020 and all of the uncertainty. And now we've got the exam and it's online. How did you decide to approach the online part of the test?
I think the biggest challenge was the MPT. The essays were easy, it was the same as the in-person. MBs also was pretty easy because you just click the answer, but MPTs was the most challenging for me at least.
Yeah.
But I like the process, I like how it was handled, and it was good.
Great. Now, you actually left your normal home right before the exam. Can you tell us what you did before the test?
Yeah, so I was studying in my apartment. We're in the apartment, and I was hoping to stay here, take a bar, but we had a construction every day from 8 o'clock in the morning till 7 p.m. And one of the uncles, you told me, no, you cannot stay here. You have to go somewhere else. So then I made my mind, and I just made a plan to go to the house. And it was the best decision ever. So it was very quiet, peaceful, and I had to travel, but it was worth it.
Yeah, and I remember in our last calls when you were calling me from there, you just seemed so much more relaxed. It was very interesting how the change in environment worked. It just gave you a little more focus and a little more peace, didn't it?
Yeah, I was by myself, and I okay, this is me, this is my laptop, this is my bar exam. I can do it now, so I can do it.
Let's talk a little bit about the technology and taking the exam online. Did that work out all right for you? Did you have any problems or challenges there?
Actually, I had a very good experience, and I think one of the reasons why, because when we have a mock exam, I took it completely all 3 hours. I was practicing, I was trying every features I could. I wrote essays, I did MPTs, and actually our bar gave us extra 3 hours of practice. So I used those daytime just practicing, understand the software, and try all the features. So this is very, very helpful to me. And I didn't have any issues. So it was very smooth and convenient.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to take the test and not have to travel or be in a room or be able to sleep in your own bed and eat in your own kitchen and so on. So that's an advantage, I think. That's really.
I drank lots of coffee. I drank like whole pot of coffee first day. So I was drinking so much coffee, but it was good.
Okay, good. Now, another of the tools that we offered that you used were Paraliminal recordings. Am I right about that?
Yes, I use Paraliminal recordings. Yes.
And the Paraliminals, for those of you that don't know, are audio recordings where you hear two different soundtracks one in each ear, and they're designed to deal with specific topics that might be problems. Did you have any favorite Paraliminals that you like to listen to?
So I think at the end was the Overwhelm. It was my favorite. Yeah. And besides the I'm still using the HoloSync. Yeah, every night since 2020, I did not stop using HoloSync. Every single night I'm using it, and I like it. It helps.
Yeah, the audio meditation HoloSync is part of the background of the Paraliminals, part of the PhotoReading as well. And it's a great way to it meditates you. You don't have to sit and think about your breathing. It just calms you down and makes you clearer. And then you took our Abundance for Bar Study MasterClass, right? Did that help you getting your mindset ready or your study process better?
Yeah, actually, I remember the class came up just maybe 2 weeks before the September 2020. I did not have much time I used it, but I didn't have much time to understand how it works, but I was trying. But when I did not pass the September 2020, I used it. I really went into it, and I am doing 90 seconds induction every morning since September 2020, every day. Now it's 2021. I do the 90 seconds induction. It helps you calm your mind down and be yourself and be in your environment. And I'm using it. And I want to tell something to everybody. When taking the bar exam, between the sessions on online bar exam, I use the choosing the channels, creativity channel. It helped me a lot to be ready for the bar exam itself. So we had 4 sessions in total. And before each session, I used the creativity channel abundance class. It was very helpful.
That's great. And that's what we designed it for. And so that MasterClass is a special way to help prepare yourself for the exam. I want to go back for a minute now and just talk about what it felt like when you didn't have success those first 3 times on the bar. Did you ever consider just giving up and forgetting about it?
Actually not, because I made my mind in the beginning, because I know my friends, maybe 50% of my friends who did not pass first time, and they gave up and never took it again. And now 2-3 years later, they're trying to get back in and trying to study, but it's very hard. So I was very disappointed. I was very frustrated, especially the first 3 times after I took the big box bar review. And because I was hoping that I will pass, but did not do my part, I think. I was not coached enough to do it. But when I found your program, so you gave me the directions. So this is very, very helpful because I wasn't by myself. Somebody was helping me. So it was number one for me. I was upset, sad, but I was not never hopeless. I was hoping that one day I can do it.
Yeah, and you did. Do you want to share with us what your score was on the exam?
It was 269.
Yeah, that's good enough to get you into a whole lot of jurisdictions. Even as a foreign trade attorney, you could practice in New York with a 269.
Yes.
So how did that feel to you?
It feels great. But so when I saw my score on the screen on a day when I got my results, I was staring at the screen for at least 15 minutes. So I was thinking, if it's a mistake, it will go away. If it's a reality, it will be my score. So for 15 minutes, I was staring and I was waiting. But it stayed there. So it's okay, I passed now.
And what did your family think?
So my husband, my son were so excited. So my son gave me this card because he was like, are you serious? You passed? So my family was very happy.
Yeah. I know that when you're studying for such a long period of time, it means missing out on some things with your family, some events, some time together. And so your family is going through the process with you, aren't they?
Yeah, so they're part of my bar exam studies, especially my husband. He was by my side all the time, but sometimes he was trying to tell me, just take a break, don't study for a year. But I said, no, I have to study.
Yeah, and they must be incredibly proud of you to have reached this accomplishment. Not many people pass the bar exam, and certainly after a number of attempts, it gets harder and harder. And this past year has been probably the craziest year ever for the bar exam. So that's an amazing accomplishment. What do you plan to do now that you've gotten past the bar? I know you still got some MPRE work to do, but what's your plan when you become a member of the bar?
I've been working for the federal government for the last 3 years. So I want to stay with the federal government. For me, it's a public service. So I want to do helpful to the public. And I'm trying to find a way to use my law degree and my license now to be helpful to the public. So this is my goal. So I'm exploring different options. Right now, I'm still in the stage of exploring all my future steps, career steps.
Yeah, and it's an exciting opportunity, isn't it, to be able to look out there and say, here are all these different things. And of course, having a voice, having your voice in the bar, having a diversity of voices in the bar is a major part of what we try to do here. I know that there are people who will be watching this interview today, Mila, who will be in the situation that you were in a few years ago. They're discouraged, they've been trying, they're just not making any progress. What would you say to those people if you were talking to them?
So I would say the same thing I told myself, that I have to invest my time, invest my finances to the best program that could make my dream to come true. And you have to be very focused, very listening all the advices, and use all the tools available to you. And this program is the best for you to pass the bar exam, because you, Jackson, give all those possibilities and tools which nobody else does. This is the only bar review I ever heard of who give you everything to pass the bar. You just need to do your part, work, practice, and study.
I think that's great advice. I think that one of the things that I saw as your teacher was how much you wanted to learn, how willing you were to try things and to do things and to keep working at it, even when I push you hard to say, you could do more, you can do better, you can go deeper. You never objected to that. You always said, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go back and work and make this better. And your work just kept getting better and better. That had to be really encouraging to you to see how you were improving as you went along, right?
Yes. And I think the hardest you were on me, the better I've become. Because when you don't make it easy and smooth and fun, it was a hard work that you gave me the push I needed to be there. So
we can smile about it now. But
I even was crying after one of the phone calls. I was crying. I'm like, what am I going to do now? It's like a week before the bar exam, and I'm crying because I don't know what to do. But 1 hour later, I got my all together, and I just do it next thing.
And I think that's one of the things that's going to make you such a terrific member of the bar. You are absolutely determined. You're so talented, and you care so much. And I think you put all of those factors together, you're going to be very special as a lawyer in the work that you do. And I don't know where you're going to come out with that effort to help the community and the public, but I know you're going to do something and it will be special. And I'm excited that we were part of that journey with you. I really appreciate that you would share your story with us today. I know that you will inspire and encourage so many people. There are people that sometimes say, English isn't my first language, so I just can't do it. What would you say to those people?
So I would say forget about you being a foreign attorney. Just think as you are American and just do your best try, best job, you will make it. No excuses. It's never an excuse it wasn't an excuse for me. It wasn't the beginning, it did not work. So I just stopped doing any excuses. So don't waste your time on excuses.
I think that when I think back to you in the course, I will always think no excuses, because you never made an excuse for anything. We were doing a conference and the construction guys were just jackhammering away. It was chaos. I mean, it was total chaos. You didn't make an excuse. You're just like, okay, we're just going to keep going. And I think that quality is such a wonderful attribute to have when you're studying and going for the exam. I'm excited to see what happens for you going forward. And I want to thank you again. So glad you could be with us and share your story. I know a lot of people will be very inspired to hear what you had to say today. Any final thoughts you want to share with our audience today?
My final thought, if you want to get your life back again after the bar, just do your best job ever and you can pass the bar and you can get your life back.
And you heard that from a woman who got her life back.
Back 2 weeks ago, and I'm so happy about it.
That's great. It's good to see you smiling and happy. Look forward to seeing what happens to you next. And best of luck and good wishes to you. And to our audience, thank you for being with us. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I know that you'll be encouraged and inspired by Mila's story. So with that, we're going to sign off and say goodbye. Thanks for being with us, Mila.
Thank you. Good luck.
That's our episode for this week. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Mila and hope that the information about the California results is helpful to those of you in that jurisdiction. Remember, we're still waiting on Georgia results. It's the last big state that'll be coming out later this month. We'll have all of that information and details, and Megan will be joining me to talk through that and to talk about the questions that students have as they're preparing for the upcoming bar exams. We hope everyone is doing well and staying healthy. We appreciate, as always, you being with us and watching or listening to these podcasts in whatever form you find best. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks for listening and watching the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at celebrationbarreview.com.